Welcome to Module 1.1, the first module of Zero to Win. It's titled, How Big is Your End Market? I am super excited to get going. I am super excited to go through the course with you. So let's get started. Here's what you'll learn. You'll learn the best practices of how to determine how big the market is for your products, and that's both the served market and the total market. I'll walk you through both. Devise a methodology to determine what that size is. And finally, determine what market share you should be aiming for. Let's determine how big the market size for your business is. Now, here's how I like to think of it. The market always comes first. You always want to make sure the end market you are targeting is big enough to support your business, because think about it. If it's not big enough for your needs, then guess what? You're focused on the wrong end market, whatever those needs are. So here are the two terms you need to know. The first is total available market, or TAM. This is the whole market that is available to you, whether you can target all of it now or not. And then the second term, served available market, or SAM. This is the market you can serve right now. Usually what happens is your SAM expands over time to get close to equaling the TAM. Here's your goal. Usually, markets start out with very fragmented competitors and then consolidate to one or two winners over time. The winner, if you're lucky enough to be the winner, may end up with 50% or greater market share. The second place winner will end up with greater than 20% market share. Your goal is to end up first or second in every market you go after. This is the basic way I plan businesses. If I can finish second and I can meet my financial goals by finishing second, then it's a viable market to go after. Now, ideally, obviously, you want to be first, but if you can finish second and still win, that's good enough. So as I said, here's the question you need to know. Are the end markets you're going after big enough for your business goals? It doesn't matter whether your business is a restaurant or a manufacturing company, because the same rules apply in both cases. As I said, here's my rule. Is the business big enough if you finish second? How do you determine how big the market is? There are two methodologies you need to know: top down, bottoms up. Neither method is perfect. You should try and do both. And I'm going to walk you through those methodologies next. Here's top-down market sizing. This is part one. You start with the biggest possible size of the market and divide down. For example, let's say you had a new type of potato chip we were going to sell. You'd start by finding the market size for potato chips overall. That's $17 billion per year, if you do the research, in 2018 in the United States. But we're going to only sell our potato chip online. According to Statistica, 3% of the customers buy potato chips online. Now it's just simple math. You take $17 billion, that reduces the market size to $17 billion times 3%, which equals $501 million per year in 2018. Now let's go to part two of top-down market sizing. Let's say the type of potato chip you are selling is only consumed by 10% of the market. Now you just do more math. Now the market size is 501 million times 10%, which equals $50.1 million per year. Now you know the size of your market based on top-down market sizing is $50.1 million. It's that simple. So here's what you do. You just take A times B times C, and that's how you get to the answer of how big your market is. Now let's do the same methodology for bottoms-up market sizing. In bottoms-up methodology, you literally work from the bottom, your potential customers, up to figure out how big the market is. So let's go back to our potato chip example. Here's how it might work. Let's say the cost of a bag of chips is $1 US. And we know that the average consumer buys 30 bags of chips per year. And we're going to reach 1 million people online through our advertising. That means our served available market is $1 times 30 times 1 million, which equals $30 million per year. So using the bottoms-up methodology, $30 million is the market size. Now we compare the results. You take your top-down analysis, compare it to the bottoms-up analysis. In our top-down analysis, we got $50.1 million. In the bottoms-up analysis, we determined it was $30 million. Now, believe it or not, this is really good. You're not looking for an exact match here. You're just looking for reasonably close. And in the business of market sizing, $50.1 million versus $30 million is reasonably close. Now you know the market size is probably somewhere between $30 to $50 million a year. You know what your target is. Now you know what you're going after. Now, there are more steps. You want to look at comparable businesses as well. Let's go back to our potato chip company. Maybe it's a good idea to look at the revenue of other companies in our market. There's plenty of data that you can use. You can do Google searches. Any public companies you can find using the website sec.gov. These are two great resources for you. And you can find enough, again, to kind of figure out the dynamics of your marketplace and to figure out relatively how big your other competitors are. So let's look at the comparable businesses. Here's some data from Statistica on the potato chip market. You can see here the largest competitors, Wavy Lay's, Pringles, Ruffles, at about $500 million per year each. You see private labeling, $448 million, Lay's, etc. This gives you an idea of who you're competing against. This is very powerful. Now you know who the largest guys out there are, and it's all public data sometimes. Now, what market share should you be aiming for? And let me start with the biggest mistake I see entrepreneurs make when it comes to market share. And it's saying, I'm going to get 1% market share. All I need is 1% market share. I'm sure you've heard this before, and we'll win. And you know what? You're going to get killed. Let's go back to the potato chip example, and I'll explain why. So the US market is huge. It's over $17 billion. The online market that you're focused on is over $500 million. 1% share means you only need $5 million a year to succeed, but it's not that easy. You're not relevant to the market, and this is the big problem that you're targeting when you only aim for 1%. Here are the problems. Customers will not care that you exist, and you will have to sell at a lower price than your competitors, and you will not build up any loyalty from your customers, and most importantly, you will not even get 1% share. You will likely get nothing. You will be irrelevant. Now here's the solution. The solution to shooting for 1% share is you have to keep segmenting the market until you are relevant. So that means you keep dividing the market into smaller and smaller pieces. And what is relevance? Let's go back to it again. It's at least 20% market share. Now, you're not going to get that 20% share overnight, but eventually you're going to get there. And that's the goal. In the case of the online potato chip market, our served market is $30 million. So if we can grow to 20% share, we will be at $6 million per year. That means to win, we will have to have a unique position in the potato chip market versus the other online competitors. And I'll get back to this later in another module. One final thought. Getting to 20% market share is not likely to happen overnight, as I was saying. It may take several years to get to 20% share. But here's the thing. Keep focused on your end market as long as you are making progress to your goal. If you keep making progress, you're in good shape. If you're not making progress and you're not going from 1% to 3% to 5% to 7%, etc., then you know what? There's a problem and you've got to go fix it. Here are the exercises you need to complete before moving on to Module 1.2. The first exercise, determine the size of your end market using the top-down methodology. The second exercise, determine the size of your end market using the bottoms-up methodology. Now we're going to move on to Module 1.2.